Jack Morrison sat at his station, his eyes glued to the endless rows of glowing signals flickering across the holographic screen. Space always looked quiet from a distance, but Jack knew better. He had been trained to notice the faintest ripple, the smallest shift in patterns, and tonight something was different. Something deep in the network was alive, pulsing like a heartbeat hidden under layers of static. The galaxy had thought Earth was silent. The alien empires had grown used to believing humans were weak, slow to advance, and unable to defend themselves against powerful civilizations. But Jack was beginning to understand that silence was not weakness. It was something else. It was the sound of preparation. The hum of secrets kept too long in the dark. The signal came first as a soft tremor, buried beneath hundreds of meaningless transmissions. Jack leaned closer, isolating it, filtering out the noise. The pattern repeated, short bursts, long pauses, then a rhythm that felt almost like words. His heart pounded. He knew he had stumbled upon something encrypted, something deliberately hidden. He had no idea yet that this signal would change the galaxy forever. On the surface of Earth, far away from Jack's small outpost, people lived their lives normally. Cities buzzed, children played, markets opened and closed. Humanity had learned to coexist peacefully under the careful watch of the Galactic Council, but not everyone believed Earth was safe. Some humans remembered the wars, the invasions, the humiliation of bowing before alien powers. They carried stories of the old battles, tales of fleets that had vanished without explanation. Some whispered that those fleets were not destroyed but hidden. Jack rubbed his tired eyes. He had worked late shifts before, but tonight his instincts told him this was no ordinary glitch. He pulled the signal apart piece by piece, arranging the fragments until they formed coherent strings. His breath caught when he recognized the coding structure. It was old, so old that even the archives in the capital barely used it anymore. It was human, but it was hidden with layers of encryption meant for military intelligence. Whoever had placed this here did not want it found, at least not easily. The words of his mentor echoed in his mind. Never ignore the shadows, Jack. Sometimes the truth hides where no one is looking. He had thought it was just poetic advice, but now it felt like prophecy. Jack initiated a secure channel, his fingers trembling. He needed to share this discovery, but with whom? Not the council. They would dismiss him, not his superiors. They might bury it. He thought of Laura Mitchell, the sharp-minded strategist he had met once during a training exercise. She had spoken about the possibility of Earth having deeper secrets buried in archives that no alien had ever been allowed to see. Perhaps she was the only one who could understand. As he hesitated, the signal pulsed again, stronger this time, as if it knew it had been discovered. The hair on the back of his neck rose. It was almost like the signal was alive, calling out, waiting. He imagined vast machines hidden somewhere in the void, engines dormant for decades, ready to wake. His chest tightened with both fear and excitement. Outside his station window, stars drifted across the black sea of space, cold and endless. Jack leaned back in his chair, realizing the weight of what he had just uncovered. He was no longer just a communications officer catching stray signals. He was now part of something larger, something Earth had been hiding for years, maybe even centuries. The Shadow Gate, that strange name whispered only in rumors, was suddenly no longer a myth. It was real. Aliens across the galaxy would never believe him. They laughed at humans, saw them as fragile creatures of a small, blue planet. But Jack now knew humanity had been preparing in silence. Something vast was moving in the dark, and when it finally came to light, it would shake the balance of power in the galaxy. He stared at the screen, his reflection merging with the data streams. For a moment, he thought about turning off the system, pretending he had never seen this. But deep inside, curiosity burned. Stronger than fear, he wanted to know more. He wanted to see where this would lead. He began recording every trace, every line of code, his notes piling up faster than his hands could keep up. He muttered to himself, connecting patterns, drawing invisible lines between old battles, missing fleets, and this strange rhythm. The signal was not just data, it was a message. And if it was a message, then someone wanted it heard. Jack took a deep breath. He whispered into the empty room. Earth has been waiting. His voice trembled, not because of doubt, but because he felt the truth of it. The silence of Earth was over. The galaxy thought it had humans figured out, but it had only seen the surface. Jack understood now that what lay beneath would rewrite history. He sat there long into the night, unable to look away. The shadows no longer frightened him. They called to him, pulled him forward. He was part of something hidden, something powerful, and he could not escape it even if he tried. And so, the first step toward unlocking the Shadow Gate began. Not with armies, not with presidents, but with one young officer listening to a whisper in the dark, a whisper that would awaken Earth's secret fleet and reveal to the galaxy what humanity had truly become. The whispers began like smoke in the wind, soft and almost invisible, yet impossible to ignore once they touched the ears of those who paid attention. For years, aliens believed that Earth was nothing more than a quiet member of the galaxy, tolerated but not respected. They thought humans had no secret weapons, no powerful technology hidden away. But Laura Mitchell, a strategist with a sharp mind and restless heart, always suspected otherwise. She had studied the old conflicts where humans fought against impossible odds, and she often wondered how Earth had survived it all. Laura spent her nights in the archives, surrounded by dusty holograms and forgotten data tablets. The Council rarely bothered with old human records, believing them to be of no importance. But Laura knew better. There were patterns, fragments of words, and small references that most ignored. She found logs of missing fleets that had been listed as destroyed, yet the details never quite matched. Some of the reports were sealed, marked with codes older than she was. One night, deep in the archives, she discovered an entry unlike the others. It mentioned something called the Shadow Gate, but only briefly, just one line hidden in 1,000 pages. The words made her skin prickle. Fleet secured beyond gate. That was all it said. But to Laura, it meant everything. Could it be possible that Earth had hidden a fleet instead of losing it? If so, where had it gone and why had no one spoken of it? At the same time, across the galaxy, aliens whispered in their marketplaces, in their great halls, in their war rooms. Traders swore they had seen massive shadows moving between stars, ships too large to belong to any known empire. Others claimed that ancient technology had been locked away by humans, waiting for a time of need. Most dismissed it as myth. But myth has a way of growing when repeated often enough. Laura's mind raced as she compared these rumors with the fragments she had uncovered. She remembered her conversations with Jack Morrison, the young communications officer who once hinted at strange signals hidden in the stars. Perhaps his discovery was connected to this. Perhaps the whispers in her documents were pieces of the same puzzle. She leaned closer to the glowing data, replaying the old transmissions. A phrase repeated in one of the files. Silent preparation. It was an odd phrase to appear in an official report, almost like a warning meant for those who could understand it. The more she studied, the clearer it became. Earth had been working in the shadows, building something no alien was supposed to know about. Her colleagues laughed when she mentioned her theories. They told her humans had no resources, no strength, no reason to hide fleets. But Laura refused to believe that Earth had simply rolled over in defeat after its first wars. She believed that humanity had learned, adapted, and planned. It was what humans did best. They survived. Laura decided to investigate further. She requested clearance to access older archives, but her requests were denied. That only made her more certain that something was being hidden. Why would harmless, outdated records be sealed unless they contained dangerous truths? She began sneaking into restricted areas at night, using her strategist rank to bypass some of the weaker security barriers. Each step deeper into the archives pulled her closer to answers she both feared and desired. Then she found it, a partial blueprint. The image was incomplete, but she could see the outline of a colossal structure, a design unlike any normal shipyard. The notes beside it mentioned energy folding and dark corridor transit, words that most modern scientists considered impossible. Laura sat back in her chair, her heart racing. The Shadow Gate was real. If the gate was real, then so was the fleet. She imagined rows upon rows of human dreadnoughts hidden in another place, untouched by alien spies, waiting for the moment they would be needed. The thought filled her with both pride and dread. Pride, because it meant humanity was not as weak as the galaxy believed. Dread, because if the fleet returned, it would spark fear in every empire, and fear often led to war. Meanwhile, the alien council debated in secret chambers. Their voices echoed through marble halls as they argued over the danger. Some dismissed the rumors as human boasting. Others warned that if Earth truly had such technology, the balance of power would collapse. The Krath Dominion in particular was restless. Their commander, Vale, slammed his claws against the council table, declaring that humanity must be forced to reveal the truth, even if it meant war. Back on Earth, Laura continued piecing the puzzle together. She felt as though invisible eyes were watching her though every step she took brought her closer to something dangerous. But she couldn't stop. She had to know the truth. She had to find the Shadow Gate. She stared at the old blueprint one last time before hiding it in her files. She whispered to herself, "If this is real, then everything changes." Her reflection in the glowing screen looked back at her, eyes wide with both fear and determination. She had uncovered the first piece of humanity's greatest secret. The whispers were no longer just rumors. They were warnings. And Laura knew that soon the galaxy would hear them louder than ever before. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any human cathedral. Its ceiling shimmered with artificial starlight, and the floor reflected the glow of countless alien banners hanging from the walls. Delegates from dozens of worlds sat in curved rows, their eyes locked on the central platform, where the debate of the day burned hotter than the suns outside. The topic was Earth, and the whispers that now spread like wildfire across the galaxy. For years, humans had been treated as minor players, a species still crawling its way into the stars. They were given a seat at the council, but it was a courtesy more than anything else. Now things were changing. Rumors of a secret fleet and a hidden technology, the so-called Shadow Gate, had begun to surface. At first, the council dismissed these stories, but as reports came from spies, traders, and even scouts at the edges of human space, fear began to take root. Commander Vale of the Krath Dominion stood tall at the center of the chamber. His reptilian frame glistened under the light, and his deep voice cut through the air. "If these humans have truly mastered a gate that can fold space, then no world is safe," he declared, his eyes narrowed into sharp slits. "The Dominion does not fear war, but it will not allow a primitive race to strike from shadows." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some laughed at the thought, calling humans too weak to manage such a feat. The Arathians, a proud avian race, flapped their wings in irritation. "Humans are reckless dreamers," one of their delegates said. "They invent wild myths to make themselves seem important." Yet even in their voices was a trace of unease. The Silurians, tall beings of silver skin, remained silent until their elder spoke. His voice was calm, but his words carried weight. "Do not dismiss them so quickly," he warned. "History has shown that humans are dangerous when underestimated. They adapt, they survive, and if they have indeed kept something hidden, then all of us may pay the price for ignoring it." Back on Earth, the humans had no idea how much they had stirred the council. Their daily lives continued. Children went to school, farmers harvested their fields, and ships moved between colonies. But in the council chamber, their future was being decided without them. The debate grew louder. Delegates banged the tables, demanding answers. Some pushed for a united investigation of Earth's territory. Others, like Commander Vale, demanded immediate military pressure to force humans to reveal the truth. The fear was not just about the fleet itself. It was about the idea that humans could bypass defenses with a single step. Gate technology, if real, would allow them to appear in the heart of any empire without warning. For a moment, silence fell as the High Arbiter of the Council raised her hand. Her tall insectoid frame loomed over the chamber. "We speak of humans as though they are prey or predators," she said slowly. "But perhaps they are neither, perhaps they are something else." Her words hung in the air like smoke, no one sure what to make of them. Commander Vale growled, slamming his clawed hand onto the table. "We cannot gamble. The Dominion has fought humans before. They are cunning, they are bold, they do not give up even when crushed. If they now wield a secret fleet, then every empire must prepare for war. The room erupted again. But beneath the shouting, a different feeling spread. Dread. The Council had faced many threats over the centuries, but those were threats they could see. Fleets that declared themselves, empires that moved openly. Humans were different. If they truly had, something like the Shadow Gate, it meant they had hidden their strength for decades, waiting for the right moment. That thought unsettled everyone. One delegate leaned close to another and whispered, "If this is true, then the humans have already won. They have already been planning while we argued." The whisper spread like poison, more dangerous than any speech. Meanwhile, in the darker corners of the chamber, spies and envoys sent secret messages to their homeworlds. Reports would reach rulers within hours. Some would laugh, others would panic, but none could ignore it. Earth was no longer invisible. It was becoming the shadow that haunted every thought. As the debate dragged on, some argued for caution, saying, the rumors might simply be lies created by humans to gain respect. Others argued that even the possibility of such a fleet was too dangerous to ignore. The Council finally decided to send observers into human space, disguised as traders and diplomats, to gather proof, but proof would not calm fear. It would only feed it. Commander Vale left the chamber with his mind set. If the Council delayed, the Dominion would act. He imagined his fleets moving across human space, crushing colonies, forcing Earth to surrender its secrets. Yet a small part of him, buried deep beneath his pride, wondered if it was already too late. What if the humans were already ahead? What if the Shadow Gate was real and waiting to open? That night, across the galaxy, leaders of empires sat in their halls staring at the stars. They thought of Earth, of the strange silence that had always surrounded it, and of the possibility that silence was not weakness, but preparation. For the first time in years, the galaxy trembled not at the roar of war, but at the whispers of humans moving in the dark. And those whispers were growing louder every day. Jack Morrison couldn't stop thinking about the signal he found. It played in his mind over and over, like a secret song only he could hear. He knew it was human-made, but it didn't match any recent transmission protocols. It was ancient, coded in ways forgotten by most, and that meant one thing. Someone had gone through a lot of effort to hide it. But why? And from who? He finally reached out to Laura Mitchell, the only person he trusted with something this strange. She was already deep in her own research, chasing old military documents and secret reports. When Jack told her about the signal, her eyes lit up. She didn't laugh, didn't call him crazy. Instead, she whispered, "It's connected." Together, they worked through the signal, matching it with coordinates hidden in dusty reports stored deep in Earth's archives. One line kept repeating. In the encrypted message, "The key lies beyond the moon." At first they thought it was a metaphor, but Laura had seen that line before once in a damaged report from the early space age. It mentioned a moon called Varela, a forgotten rock that didn't appear on any modern maps. Within hours they assembled a small crew and took off in the Liberty, a mid-sized warship that hadn't seen action in years. It wasn't fancy, but it was fast, and most importantly, it was unregistered with the Council. The mission was off the record, and if anyone found out, they'd be accused of espionage or worse. They navigated through dead zones of space, past drifting mines and collapsed relay stations. The journey took days, and most of the crew grew nervous. But Jack and Laura were too focused to feel fear. Every strange reading, every odd movement on their scanners pushed them forward. When they finally reached Varela, they found nothing, just an old, gray moon with jagged cliffs and deep craters. It looked like every other lifeless rock in space. But then Jack picked up the signal again, clearer now, stronger. It pulsed beneath the surface, not just a message but a guide. Laura ordered a scan of the terrain. The moon's structure showed signs of artificial construction deep underground. There was a massive power source buried below, untouched for centuries. Their ship couldn't land directly above it due to the magnetic interference, so they launched a small shuttle and flew in low through the ravines. The entrance was hidden, Beneath a sliding stone ridge once inside, the walls glowed faintly with blue light, metal lines running through ancient stone. As they walked deeper, they felt the temperature shift. Neither hot nor cold, just still, like the place had been holding its breath. At the center of the chamber was a massive gate, circular and dark. The air around it shimmered as if it touched a different space. It looked like a pool of ink frozen in time. And above it, engraved, in faded human lettering, were the words, Project Echo Shadowgate Access Point. Jack stepped closer, his fingers brushing the control panel. Surprisingly, it powered up instantly, as though it had been waiting. Lights flickered across the walls, and ancient systems woke from their long sleep. A voice played through the room in soft, crackling English. Access recognized. Morrison. Jack. Security clearance restored. Everyone froze. How did the gate know Jack? How was his name already in the system? Laura stared at him, confused and amazed. Your grandfather served in the Navy, right? She asked. He nodded, remembering stories his grandfather told him as a child about the great human fleets, battles, and secret missions. But he never mentioned this. The gate began pulsing with energy. Jack and Laura exchanged a glance. They didn't know what would happen next, but they had come too far to stop now. Jack pressed the activation button. A hum filled the chamber, deep and growing louder. The gate began spinning, and then, without warning, it snapped open like an eye awakening. A deep void appeared inside it, shimmering, dark, but alive. They looked into it, unsure if they were staring into a wormhole, a pocket dimension, or something else entirely. Then a faint shape moved within the void, followed by another and another. Massive shadows drifted forward, shapes that grew clearer with every passing second. The first ship that came through was enormous, longer than the Liberty by 10 times. Its hull was black and silver, marked with old Earth military symbols. It moved like a beast returning home. The others followed. 5, 10, then dozens, all of them Earth's warships. Long thought lost in battles no one even remembered clearly anymore. The Liberty's crew stood in stunned silence as the forgotten fleet emerged from the gate. There were battleships, dreadnoughts, cruisers, each one silent but fully powered, as if they had never been damaged or aged. The gate remained open, humming gently, as if inviting more. Laura whispered, "They weren't destroyed. They were hidden. They were placed beyond the gate to keep them safe." Jack nodded slowly, his eyes wide. Earth knew the galaxy would underestimate us, so they made sure we'd have something when the time came. The time had come, and Earth's forgotten fleet was finally waking up, ready to change the balance of the galaxy forever. Jack couldn't breathe for a moment as the first massive warship passed through the shadow gate. It moved slowly, like a sleeping giant finally rising. Its surface was dark and smooth, with strange silver lines glowing across the hull. The ship didn't make a sound, but everyone on the Liberty could feel its presence like a deep echo in their bones. More ships followed, one after another, each more incredible than the last. They looked like something from old human war legends. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, assault carriers. Some were even larger than space stations. Each one carried markings of Earth's ancient navy, forgotten symbols that hadn't been seen in over a century. The Liberty's crew stared in silence. Jack stepped forward, barely whispering, "They're real." Laura stood beside him, eyes wide with awe. All this time they were waiting, hidden behind the gate. The gate itself didn't look like a machine anymore. It looked alive. Its spinning ring shimmered like a lake of shadows. Endless and deep, the warships emerged one by one. And each time the gate pulsed like it was breathing, the Liberty's sensors went wild. Every ship was fully powered, armed, and operational. These weren't old wrecks. They were ready for battle. As if frozen in time and now reawakened, Jack looked at the control panel again, trying to find answers. "Why now?" he asked. "Why did they wait so long?" Then the voice returned, the same soft voice that had spoken his name. Command link re-established. It said fleet status, standby. Jack's name was registered in the system, but he didn't know how or why. It must have been his grandfather, a high-ranking officer in Earth's military long ago. Maybe he had linked Jack's name as part of a final protocol, Suddenly, one of the larger ships sent out a beacon. It was a message in ancient Earth code. Jack translated quickly, reading aloud. Fleet Alpha is standing by for command. The crew exchanged nervous looks. They had uncovered Earth's biggest secret. And now it was in their hands. Laura walked up to the comm station and tapped a command. This is Laura Mitchell of the Earth Liberty. Identify yourself. A reply came, calm and steady. Flagship Obsidian responding, awaiting activation orders. Jack blinked. Obsidian. That was Earth's most powerful battleship before the fleet vanished. The Obsidian slowly turned in space, positioning itself like it was preparing for something. Then the other ships began forming a pattern behind it. Lining up in perfect formation, it was like watching a ghost army come back to life. The Liberty's pilot, Max, whispered, This doesn't feel real. It's like a legend stepped out of history. Laura nodded. It's real, Max. And we have to decide what to do with it. The fleet wasn't just military hardware. It was a message to the galaxy. Earth was not defenseless. Earth had prepared quietly and patiently, while everyone else looked away. Jack opened a secure line to Earth, hoping the signal could reach past Council monitoring systems. This is Jack Morrison. I'm sending you coordinates and data from the Shadow Gate, the fleet. It's real, all of it. He knew it was risky. Someone might intercept the message, but they had no choice. Earth needed to know the fleet had returned. On the other side of the gate, the stars looked brighter now. Dozens of warships floated around the Liberty, silent, massive, and waiting. The weight of history pressed on everyone aboard. Laura took a deep breath. We need to lead them back. Show Earth, show the galaxy, what's been hidden all this time. Jack nodded slowly. But once they see this, no one will stay silent. The alien empires will panic. The Council might act fast. That's why we have to be faster, she replied. This fleet isn't just for war, it's for protection. Earth has always wanted peace, but it never stopped preparing for war. The gate shimmered behind them, still open, still humming. Jack turned to the console, issued the command for fleet follow pattern, and watched as each warship responded perfectly. They were synced to the Liberty now, following it like a lead wolf guiding the pack. The Liberty turned slowly, leading the fleet away from the gate, toward Earth space. It was time to bring the secret home, but Jack couldn't help feeling the eyes of the galaxy upon them. Somewhere out there, alien spies would see. Somewhere Council agents would panic, and somewhere warlords would begin planning. The Shadow Gate had been unlocked, and with it, Earth's future had changed forever. The hidden fleet was no longer a myth, it was real, and it had returned to the stars it once left behind. As the Liberty led the formation into the darkness of space, Jack whispered, Let them see. Let them all see what Earth has been hiding. And behind him, the silent army of ships followed, proud, vast, and ready. The moment Earth's secret fleet passed through the Shadow Gate, everything began to change. Jack and Laura didn't have to announce anything. The galaxy saw it for themselves. Within hours, deep space sensors across alien territory picked up strange movements. Hundreds of ships flying in tight formation. Old Earth models, but more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen in years. Warships with black and silver hulls, moving like shadows through the stars, silent but unstoppable. The news spread like fire. On Varnock Station, a Krath spy watched the footage in disbelief. He had followed humans for years, convinced they were harmless, now staring at Earth's forgotten fleet returning from beyond the gate. He felt his blood turn cold. He sent a warning back to the Krath Dominion, only 3 words. They are ready. In the Galactic Council chambers, chaos erupted. Aliens shouted over each other, demanding answers. The High Arbiter tried to calm them, but her voice was lost in the noise. They were supposed to be gone. One delegate yelled, Destroyed in the last war. Those ships shouldn't exist. Another shouted, We counted them as losses. Now they're back? Commander Vale of the Krath Dominion stood with fury in his eyes. They lied to us, he growled. They hid these ships from the galaxy, and now they want us to believe it's for peace. While empires argued, Earth made its move. President Linda Carter stood in a high-security control room deep beneath Earth's surface. Her gray eyes focused on the screen as the Liberty sent its transmission. The Shadow Gate, the fleet. Everything was now in view. The truth had arrived. Her military advisors stood beside her, some stunned, some afraid. But Linda's face remained calm. She had known the secret, but she never thought it would be revealed this soon. She stepped forward and gave her first public message to the galaxy. Her words were broadcast from every human outpost, every ship and every station, and soon picked up by alien frequencies. "This is President Linda Carter of Earth," she said, her voice steady and clear. "The Shadow Gate has been reactivated. The fleet you see was hidden, not as a weapon of conquest, but as a shield for our survival." The Council received the message with silence at first. Then outrage, lies, one alien barked. "They prepared for war behind our backs. This is a threat to every world." The warning alarms echoed across the Liberty. Jack stood on the bridge watching the red lights flash around him. The Krath Dominion fleet had entered human space, and they were not slowing down. Hundreds of alien warships moved in formation. Heading straight for the Shadow Gate, their goal was clear: destroy Earth's secret fleet before it could fully organize. Jack's hands were steady on the console, but his heart pounded. "They're almost here," he said. "We have minutes. Maybe less." Laura stood beside him, her eyes scanning the tactical screen. "This is it," she said softly. The first real test. Earth's reawakened fleet had formed a wall near the gate. The Obsidian, the largest and oldest human dreadnought, led the formation. Around. It were dozens of cruisers, destroyers, and stealth ships, each one powered up, weapons armed, shields raised. Back on Earth, President Linda Carter gave the final order. "Defend the gate. Do not fire unless fired upon." But everyone knew what would happen next. The Krath were not known for diplomacy. The Krath ships came in fast, weapons glowing with energy. The lead ships locked onto the Obsidian and launched the first wave of missiles. The sky lit up with trails of fire. That was all the permission Earth needed. Jack slammed his hand on the control panel. "Return fire." The Obsidian's cannons roared. Blue and white beams shot forward and struck the Krath ships with perfect aim. One exploded instantly. The others spun off course, trying to dodge. All across the battlefield, Earth's fleet came alive. Fighters, launched from carriers, lasers flashed through space. Earth's ships moved with deadly precision, not like old machines waking up, but like trained soldiers ready for war. Laura's voice was calm as she gave orders. "Target their engines. Make them stop moving." On the Liberty, Max weaved between the larger ships, firing small bursts at weak spots in enemy armor. "We're actually winning," he said in shock. And they were. The Krath had come expecting an easy victory. They thought Earth's old ships would fall quickly, but what they found was a fleet designed for one purpose: survival. The Shadow Fleet moved like ghosts, disappearing through the gate and reappearing, behind enemy lines, then striking with perfect timing. Ships that vanished from one part of the battlefield appeared moments later somewhere else. Hitting the Krath from the back or sides, the aliens couldn't keep up. Their formations broke apart. Commanders shouted in confusion. On the Krath flagship, Commander Vale growled in frustration. "How are they doing this?" he shouted. "These ships are ancient." But age meant nothing now. Earth's technology had been hidden, not weak. A group of Krath warships tried to flank the Liberty, but before they could strike, 3 Earth cruisers jumped through the gate and blasted them apart. Laura looked over. At Jack, her voice calm but proud. "They underestimated us." Jack nodded. "That was their first mistake." More Krath ships tried to retreat, but the gate opened again, and Earth ships appeared in their path, blocking the way. The Krath were surrounded. Within an hour, the Krath fleet was broken, half their ships destroyed, the rest fleeing in panic. The Liberty's crew watched in silence as the last of the enemy ships disappeared into the dark. Jack leaned back in his chair, tired but smiling. "We did it." Laura looked at the battlefield, now quiet, filled with glowing pieces of metal floating in space. "This was just the beginning," she said. "Now the galaxy knows." Earth's victory wasn't just military. It was symbolic. The entire galaxy had seen the battle. Thousands of systems picked up the transmissions. Millions watched as Earth, once considered weak, stood against one of the strongest empires and won. Back on Earth, people cheered, families cried with joy. The silence of fear was gone, replaced with pride and hope. President Carter addressed the galaxy once again. We did not ask for war, but we will never again be taken lightly. Earth has stood, Earth has survived, and Earth will protect its future. The Council of Worlds could no longer ignore what had happened. Delegates met in secret rooms, speaking in hushed tones. Some called for peace, others whispered of revenge. But none could deny the truth. Humanity had changed the game. The Shadow Gate remained open, floating in space like a reminder of what Earth had been hiding. The fleet stood ready, guarding the gate, silent but watching. Laura and Jack stood on the deck of the Liberty, looking out at the stars. What happens now? Jack asked. Laura smiled faintly. Now they come to us, they'll send envoys, spies, maybe more fleets. Jack raised an eyebrow. And we'll be ready? She nodded. We've always been ready. They just didn't know it. The stars blinked quietly in the distance, but Jack didn't feel small anymore. He felt like Earth had finally found its place. Not begging for peace, not hiding in the corner, but standing tall among the stars. The first battle was over, but the war for respect had just begun, and this time Earth wouldn't be silent. It would speak through power, through unity, and through the ships that had once been forgotten, but now had returned stronger than ever. The space around Earth was quiet now, but it was not the same kind of quiet as before. This silence was not weakness. It was power. It was the silence after victory, after the truth had been revealed. Earth's secret fleet had returned. The Our Shadow Gate had been unlocked, and the galaxy had watched as the impossible became real. On board the Liberty, Jack stood at the window, looking out at the massive warships floating like sleeping giants. The Obsidian, the old flagship, hovered. In the front, dark and majestic, surrounded by cruisers and carriers with weapons glowing dimly in standby mode. We brought them home, Jack said softly, almost to himself. Laura stood beside him, arms crossed. And the galaxy saw everything, she replied. They know. Now, Earth is not alone, and we were never weak. Messages poured in from every corner of space. Some were threats, some were questions, others were invitations to talk. The Galactic Council, once proud and dismissive, now begged for discussions. Diplomats who once ignored Earth now asked for meetings. Back on Earth, President Linda Carter addressed the world. Her face appeared on every screen, her voice calm but firm. We did not reveal our fleet to start a war, she said. We did it to protect our future. We hid our strength not out of fear but out of wisdom. Now the time for hiding is over. People across Earth, on space stations, on moon colonies, and deep space outposts, all listened. Children asked their parents about the warships in the sky. Old veterans cried as they saw ships they once served on return from the shadows. The Shadow Gate became a symbol. It glowed silently in orbit, like a doorway between what was and what will be. Its surface shimmered like water, hiding the space beyond. A place only humans could enter and control. Laura spent hours studying the gate's systems. It was more than a teleport device. It was a guardian. It had kept the fleet safe, in another space for over 100 years, untouched by time. Jack discovered that his grandfather had indeed been part of the original Shadow Fleet project. Before the last war, a few human leaders had predicted that Earth might one day be overpowered. So they hid their strongest ships, not to fight a losing battle, but to survive and return when the time was right. That time had come. Alien leaders were shaken. Some still didn't believe what they had seen. Others believed too much and prepared for another war, but most understood one thing. Earth was now a force they could not ignore. In the Krath Dominion, Commander Vale stood before his emperor, humiliated after his defeat. I underestimated them, he admitted. The humans fought like ghosts, like they had planned every move for decades. The emperor nodded slowly. Then we must plan for decades as well, he replied, and never assume they are weak again. Meanwhile, Earth worked quickly to organize its new power. The secret fleet was brought fully online, commanders were assigned, shipyards were repaired, and the Liberty was promoted as the lead scout vessel. Jack and Laura were given top positions not just as heroes but as leaders of a new era. Jack didn't feel like a hero, though. He still remembered that first signal, the strange rhythm hidden in static. That small discovery had changed everything. He walked through the halls of the Liberty. He passed crew members who smiled at him, saluted him. Some whispered thanks. Others looked at him with awe. But Jack remained humble. He had only followed a mystery and found history waiting. Laura, however, was already thinking ahead. "They'll come again," she said one night sitting with Jack in the observation room. "Not just the Krath, but others. They'll test us, try to take the gate, maybe even copy it." "Let them try," Jack answered. "We'll be ready," she smiled. "We always were. They just didn't know." The Shadow Fleet remained stationed near the gate, not to threaten but to protect. Earth didn't want to conquer, it only wanted peace, but peace with strength. Earth's message was clear. We may be quiet, but we are never unprepared. In the days that followed, new alliances began to form. Small planets that had feared the big empires now reached out to Earth, asking for friendship, trust, and defense. Earth became a symbol of resistance, of balance, of hope. The Shadow Gate was no longer just a hidden project. It was the key to a future where Earth would help shape the galaxy, not by fear, but by showing what humans could do when they stood together. And Jack, standing once again by the window, smiled as stars twinkled beyond the warships. "It's a new dawn," he said quietly. Laura nodded. "And this time, we're not in the shadows." The stars had watched Earth rise once, and now they would watch again. But this time they would see humanity for what it truly was. Not weak, not lost, but strong, clever, and ready to face whatever came next. The fleet stood guard. The gate shimmered quietly, and Earth, once silent, now stood proud among the stars. A force of peace, power, and unbreakable will, ready to protect its place in the galaxy forever.